That's it. We should be able to render water in our original scene now. But before we do that, we must add an override for water rendering. And just click all and change the state to enabled. Now let's create a water surface. And you can see we are now rendering the water inside our scene. Let's just save our project. We can change the distant wind speed to get different type of waves and the speed of the waves, and as well as the orientation. Just keep it at 20 for now. Let's enable the underwater and caustics. Currently there is nothing rendered underneath the water surface. As soon as you click underwater, you can see there's like a green fog generated, but still we can't see anything. We'll create a 3D object plane and scale it by 1000. Just reset the transform, scale by 1000 again. It has to be underneath the water surface, so -30 is a good value. We can't see our plane object yet. So let's change the absorption distance inside the underwater. This is still blank. So we need to change the absorption distance. Now in the ocean, go all the way down to appearance. In the underwater section, you can change the absorption distance to about 30. Now you can see the difference. You can see your plane object and you can see these nice effect on it. If you turn off caustics, then you can't see it, so that's what caustics is for. That's really what caustics does. You can change the absorption distance as you want, depending on your game. Let's create a cube to see the visual effect. Now the cube is underwater and you can see how caustics is affecting it. Let's change the geometry type to quad so that we can give it our own size. So you can just fix it to add a box collider in the underwater section. Now we will scale it by 1000 on the X and 1000 on the Z. Let's save our project again. Now it's not rendering any underwater because the collider is too small. Let's try 30, rather let's try 50. You can see that this underwater is still some parts visible, and just as I go right at the tip of the plane, it just shows a blank. So the collider is still pretty small. It'll change the size. But first let me just change the color of the underwater. And let's also change the absorption distance because it's very so visible underneath the sea. Just keep it at 2, it's a good value I think, so I'm just going to save my project. But there is still a space where the collider is not coming. It's a trigger collider, so you can make it as big as you want. We'll just write in 80 for now. And I don't think this problem will happen now. So you can't find a place where it's not rendering the underwater. And now we are done with the underwater and water. My plane is oversized. You can make it smaller to fit your size. You must install this. I've got a pirate ship for free from someone called Comeback. So you can just add it to your assets. It's a very good ship for any sailing game because it has interior and exterior. So I have added it to my assets and just imported it into my game from the package manager. Just drag this in here and you can already see some foam is being generated. I've made some changes to it, but not any changes, so even if you don't make any changes to it, it won't cause any difference. The only changes I made was the water foam generator, 3 of them, and the excluder. So that's up to you to add them or not. You can see how I caused this foamy effect. So that's all I did. The rest of it is still same. The water excluders, you got a lot of different water excluders, but they're all trying to stop the last floor. Just save that as well. Now I made a prefab called floater. You just have to create a cube and then scale it by 40 on the Z. Okay, and I've added 4 empty game objects, and now you must create a script called floater. So I've got 2 scripts, floater and keep same transform. So this script is made by a channel on the YouTube, and another channel on YouTube actually converted it to be compatible with the preview version, but nobody showed how to get a proper ship floating, so that's why I decided to give this tutorial. Just copy that into the floater script, and this is a very small script, keep same transform. You can just create it and then just write the same Here's the script, you just can copy it. Just declare two variables, and that's it for that script. Now on the floater we have got a bounce collider, a rigid body. You must set the weight to 5000 and must set the floater script exactly as I have, and the keep same transform at 8.5. The transform to follow is going to be our stylized ship, so we're just gonna drag it in a bit, but you can see the collider and rigid body settings. You must keep it as is trigger because we don't need to check collisions. This is the first part of this new water system. I will make another video on it of how we can detect collisions, but just for now let's drag in our stylized ship unity transform, and we should now be able to see working, but it won't work yet. Let's give it the water surface as well, and just set it up this way, 1 3 1 1 1. Now inside the stylized ship, the body is an offset. The designer I think has made a simple mistake maybe, but we'll just give it an offset. Just copy this value, and paste it, then paste it in there as well. Save that. Inside the floater we have done the setting up. I created an empty for keeping all these 4 floating points, so all of them have the same script attached, and they have the floater rigid body on the parent. They all have the same rigid body. You must copy all these same values, 1.2, 4 floaters, 1 water drag, and water angular drag also to 1. Otherwise it might go all funny, because that's what was happening when I was going on with 3 as the displacement amount. Just give it the water surface, all 4 of them. You can see I've selected them all. If we save that now, I think we are done with the setting up. It should run now. Just don't forget to disable rigid bodies, use gravity, okay? You can see how our ship is now floating on the water surface. And because of my water excluders, at a certain height you cannot see the water, and when you go below that height, which is my excluders height, you can then see the water. So just lift the camera a bit higher, so normal character controller won't be able to see the water, but if it does, then I will just drag it down a bit. So let's just show you another thing. I will that's how you can get this ship from the package manager as well. I have already imported it. It's saying to import an updated version, but I did not import that. You can import it as well as you want.